Imagine Guyana, this tiny Latin American country, got a visit from a pompous British Prime Minister who came all the way to talk about climate change and bringing the idea of switching to clean energy like switching TV channels. And Guyana's government is singing oil and gas, while the man is talking environment. Oil is what makes Guyana Latin America's fastest growing economy, but besides the energy sector, most American CEOs would be hard pressed to find it on a world map. Can you believe the epic discovery this country made? They found massive oil reserves that practically doubled their entire economy overnight. Their GDP exploded between 2021 and 2022, and experts say it will be over 300% higher within the next 6 years. It's totally bonkers. They're going to be insanely rich. Like richer than anywhere else in the Americas. It's absolutely unreal to think about how discovering oil can transform a country so drastically so quickly, and this place is about to be swimming in cash. Guyana has been going through a lot of changes lately under the leadership of President Ali. The country's developing really quickly thanks to an incredible economic boom. They've now got the most oil reserves per person anywhere in the entire world. I mean, talk about hitting the jackpot. I can definitely see America going over to give them some freedom. But because of their recent discovery, Guyana is in a pretty unique situation right now. Their GDP is only about $7 billion, so any increase is a big deal for them. And they just found this massive oil reserve off their coast. It's 190 kilometers offshore, where ExxonMobil and other companies found over 1 billion barrels of oil and gas in 2015. Can you believe that? For a country as small as Guyana, that's just insane. The oil reserves now make up a third of the total world reserves since that discovery. And get this, Exxon says that oil export earnings are going to bring over $11 billion to the Guyanese government by 2023 alone. So between the relatively small economy and this huge offshore oil field, Guyana is poised to grow significantly in the coming years. Did I mention that Guyana is projected to become one of Latin America's top oil producers? They're expected to surpass a lot of their neighbours and become one of the top dogs. Guyana's economy is absolutely crushing it right now. Not only is a third oil field starting to pump black gold out of the ground, but investments in homes, transportation and education are turbocharging the non-oil part of Guyana's industry. Get this, the IMF said that agriculture, mining and quarrying in Guyana are going up too. Things are growing all over the place in Guyana. The future is looking bright for this country. So we've been talking about how Guyana's economy is growing really quickly lately. You're probably wondering now, how did they end up on this path? Well, to understand where they are now, we need to take a step back in time and look at some of the key things that have happened throughout Guyana's history and helped shape the country into what it is today. Though political independence was attained by Guyana in 1966, economic independence took longer to materialise. But the Burnham administration that took office at that time wasn't really satisfied. That's because they viewed the perspective of foreign dominance in the economy as a barrier to advancement. Seems logical to me. Imagine a foreign administration to be in the driver's seat of your country. Guyana were in an uncomfortable situation. The majority of mining and agricultural businesses were held by these foreign corporations. But you know what's more crazy? Most decisions that had an impact on the economy were still made in other countries. Unbelievable. As an example, the two biggest sugar estate owners and major players in the country were two British corporations, Booker McConnell and Jessel Securities. The Booker McConnell Corporation alone was responsible for about 1/3 of Guyana's GNP. In 1970, and in an effort to seize control of the country, the Burnham administration declared Guyana to be the first cooperative republic in history. Although foreign investment would still be welcomed, the government would own at least 51% of all businesses that operate there. The government only intended to limit its ownership to 51%, but they ended up seizing total authority over the economy, doing away with foreign management as well as ownership. They managed to get the outsiders to be on their way. So they took control. Great. But it wasn't sunshine and rainbows for long. In the 1980s, an economic downturn was waiting for them in the form of two big issues. First, the depletion of government resources prevented investment in the huge mining and agricultural firms. And second, there was a shortage of local managers qualified to oversee them. Luckily, the Team Burnham came prepared, weirdly with the help of outsiders. Thanks to the right application of economic reforms backed by the IMF, the country was brought back from near collapse in 1982. These changes were successful by the middle of the 1990s in stabilising the currency, reducing inflation, and boosting trade and output. By 1996, the economy was expanding at a rate of more than 6% annually. But once again, they're put in another scrambling situation. Soon after, in 1998, A combination of declining commodity prices, drought, and unrest in the political system led to a stop in growth, with only mild improvements until 2005. There were indications in 2006 that the foreign financial institutions-backed economic policies were starting to pay off. But in 2008, the economy moderated due to a collapse in global demand. In fact, the GDP growth rate was around 7% in 2007, and it had a crazy drop in 2008, reaching 1.9%. Now, it's clear that Guyana went through ups and downs throughout its history, but now, after the mind-blowing discovery of oil reserves, the government can finally be more generous in funding large projects. The government has started building infrastructure projects with $1.6 billion in oil revenue so far. These projects include building major highways, hospitals, hotels, schools, and Guyana's first deep water port. Is that it? Of course not. They just got billions in their pockets. They must be doing more. Well, Vice President Barrett Jagdeo revealed that a $1.9 billion gas-to-energy project will double Guyana's energy output and cut expensive power bills in half. Oil is Guyana's bread and butter. Even though the projects produce jobs, the people there hardly ever work directly in the oil sector. Deep-sea drilling requires extremely technical labour, and the nation doesn't provide this kind of training. So, we shouldn't be 100% sure that the country will become super rich in the next few years. I hear so many rumours about how things can go wrong there. I'm not the only one to worry about this tiny country. Imagine yourself waking up one day and finding out that you have a few $billions from good old Uncle Joe. You jump out of happiness, of course, but super confused on what you could do. That's exactly the case of Guyana. This mostly poor country is going to continue receiving billions of dollars from the oil boom. Experts feel that Guyana's experience is insufficient to manage the inflow of riches. They are potentially ill-prepared for such unexpected wealth and lack a plan to handle the additional cash. So experts talk about 4 concerns. Number 1. Rich natural resources have the power to light up rapid economic expansion, but harnessing these precious resources makes many emerging nations poorer. Sorry, what? You heard it correctly. Let me say it again. So much cash from a natural resource can blow your wallet dry. This phenomenon is actually known as the resource curse. It affects numerous nations in Latin America and beyond. Why does this curse manifest itself? A country's economy can start to struggle if their income from stuff like oil and natural gas grows too quickly. When a country makes more and more money from selling resources, it makes their currency more valuable compared to other countries' money. So things they export besides resources actually become less affordable for foreigners. Since their exports get more expensive, they don't sell as well in other countries anymore. That takes us to number 2. Even with the oil boom, some people are becoming even poorer. The cost of living and prices of staples like sugar, oranges, cooking oil, and peppers have more than doubled while wages have remained stagnant. There's a famous story of a guy in Guyana called Samuel Arthur who sells large heavy-duty plastic bags for $100 a month while transporting about 40 pounds of weight every day. He's one of those who are still struggling to make ends meet. Okay, so we know not everyone is benefiting, but is there any favorism? Which takes us to number 3. Oil money is exacerbating ethnic tensions in Guyana. Politics in Guyana is divided along racial lines. The People's Progressive Party, PPP, is mostly supported by Indo-Guyanese, who are the descendants of Indian workers brought over long ago. Meanwhile, Afro-Guyanese, who are descendants of African slaves, tend to back a Partnership for National Unity, APNU. In 2020, after the general election, the PPP ended up in power by just 2 seats. Even though it was a really small win, the PPP is now running the government and gets to decide things like how to share out the money from oil. This tiny victory has really increased tensions between ethnic groups. The APNU is claiming that the PPP is taking the oil money and giving it to their supporters, who are Indo-Guyanese, instead of sharing it with Afro-Guyanese and others. Right now, there isn't proof that this kind of favoritism is happening. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen or isn't happening. For Guyana to really benefit from the oil boom, the government needs to make sure all citizens, not just some, get a piece of the action. Finally, for our climate activists, number 4. Climate change concerns. Because of where it's located, Guyana could see lots of coastal flooding. Most of the population lives in lowland areas by the water of the Atlantic Ocean. Some people are saying that by 2030, Georgetown, the capital, might be underwater. Since it would be hit so hard by climate change, you have to wonder if the government should really be supporting oil drilling there. Drilling actually makes climate change worse, which Guyana is very vulnerable to. On top of that, any drilling they do in Guyana could also risk an even worse hazard: potential oil leaks. If they have one, all that oil money is just going to be used to clean it up. The path to a new Guyana is challenging, despite some hopeful signs. The resource curse, unequal distribution of wealth, and environmental catastrophes are the crazy obstacles. But there is no denying that Guyana has struck oil gold, and with it, the opportunity to help its people escape poverty. There is yet hope for a golden Guyana. To implement it, the government only needs to adopt the safety precautions that are necessary. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons to receive more content. See you in the next video.